Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing something really practical. We've gathered a fascinating set of everyday workplace conversations. Think of it like getting a fly-on-the-wall perspective on how different professional scenarios actually play out.
Right. Seeing it in action.
Exactly. And our goal here is to distill these interactions down to their core communication principles, those key insights, maybe some actionable approaches you can start using pretty much immediately, whatever your role.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got this pretty diverse collection of dialogues. They cover everything from the basics, like reporting progress or taking on new tasks.
Daily stuff.
The daily stuff, yeah. Right up to the more nuanced situations, like, receiving praise or handling mistakes, even navigating big career changes like resignations and transfers.
I'd arrange then.
It is. It's a great chance to see communication really working, or sometimes maybe not working, in context.
And what's so valuable for you listening, I think, is that this isn't just about watching people talk. It's about pulling out a kind of shortcut to, more effective professional communication. We're going to highlight the dynamics underneath, the subtle language cues, the approaches that seem to pave the way for, smoother interactions and hopefully better outcomes.
Right, finding those patterns.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this, starting with something really fundamental to almost every job: reporting your work.
Good place to start. So we have two short exchanges here. The first one involves a Mr. John and someone presenting like a project update.
Okay.
And what immediately jumps out, I think, is the presenter's structured approach. It's very clear. Well, they lay out the background first, then they detail the steps they took, and finally they clearly state the expected result. That kind of framework, it's really powerful.
Yeah, it makes sense. It sort of mirrors how we process information, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You get the context and the what happened and the so what.
Exactly. Context, process, conclusion. It builds a clear mental map for whoever's listening, in this case, Mr. John.
And I notice how directly Mr. John asks for feedback. Just, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, straight to the point.
It's efficient, right? Opens the door right away for collaboration. No beating around the bush.
And then the presenter's response, offering to revise, saying, I will alter it according to your opinion. That signals, I think, a really valuable openness, a willingness to put the project's success ahead of maybe their own attachment to the initial plan.
That builds trust, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Shows you're on the same team.
Precisely. It's a small phrase, maybe, but it really demonstrates that collaborative mindset.
Okay, so the second reporting dialogue between a Mr. Paul and someone else. This one seems to shift focus a bit.
It does. It focuses more on what happens after a meeting. In this specific case, it's following up after a meeting with an agent.
Right. And here's where, for me, it gets interesting in terms of being proactive. They don't just assume the meeting went well.
No, there's a deliberate check.
That question. Does he seem reliable to you? That's just smart, isn't it? A bit of due diligence.
It really is. It's about making sure everyone's got the same read on this external person, checking that perception of dependability. It's actively managing potential risk, you could say.
Yeah, before you get too far down the road.
Exactly. And then they immediately move to schedule the next concrete steps, a meeting to finalize the details.
Which stops things just drifting, right? Keeps the momentum going.
Prevents that awkward limbo where nothing happens. Plus, there's that emphasis on getting absolute clarity before the final decision.
The line about make everything clear, and then we will decide the time of the signing ceremony.
Yeah, that just underlines how important thoroughness is, especially when the stakes are potentially high, like a signing ceremony implies.
Okay, good points. So let's move on to another common scenario. Accepting assigned work. We've got a couple here, too.
We do. The first involves a newcomer. Miss Lucy is welcoming them. And it's a really good example, I think, of how that initial communication can set the tone for the whole working relationship.
How does she do that?
Well, she immediately focuses on orienting the new person, getting them familiar with the office environment first. But what's really interesting is the deliberate step-by-step onboarding.
Not just throwing everything at them at once.
Right. No overwhelming info dump. Miss Lucy specifically outlines those initial tasks. Keeping files organized, handling phone calls, taking messages, clear, manageable starting point.
Gives them something concrete to focus on.
Exactly. And crucially, there's that open invitation for questions. If you have any questions, you can ask me at any time.
That's huge, especially when you're new. Makes you feel okay about not knowing everything.
Absolutely fundamental for supportive communication. It makes someone feel comfortable asking, prevents misunderstandings later on.
Okay, so the second dialogue about accepting work, this one feels different, more urgent. It's Linda being assigned something critical.
Yes, you can hear the shift in tone. The language is much more direct. Linda, I have something important to discuss with you.
Immediately signals.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Right. And the reason for assigning it to Linda because another colleague was careless is stated quite clearly.
Which also kind of implicitly highlights Linda's reliability, I suppose.
It does, yeah. It gives context, maybe a touch of a harsh workplace reality there.
True. But what really stands out is the prioritization.
Yeah.
It's completely unambiguous.
You need to leave your job at hand. You will take meeting minutes tomorrow, which is the top priority. Zero room for doubt about what needs to happen now.
And there's even practical advice thrown in.
Yeah, advise you to bring the recorder pen in case of emergencies.
Yeah.
That shows a level of foresight and support. It's not just delegating, it's trying to equip Linda for success in this priority task.
Setting her up to succeed. Okay, let's shift gears to something maybe a bit more pleasant. Being praised.
Always nice to analyze. So, first dialogue, Jack gets some positive feedback. What's interesting is how he responds. He acknowledges it. You flatter me. It was really a challenge to me. But then he immediately pivots to recognizing the support he got.
If not having the support from you, I couldn't have got the achievement part.
Exactly. It's sort of humble, but also very team-oriented. A really good way to accept praise without sounding boastful.
And it reinforces that idea of collaboration again. Plus, there's a tangible reward, mentioned the bonus.
Right, which acts as powerful positive reinforcement. Can't beat that.
Okay, the second praise scenario. Mr. Smith's visit was a success.
And here, the person giving the praise is incredibly generous. I think half of the credit should go to you.
Wow, that's quite a statement. Really builds rapport, doesn't it? Acknowledges a massive contribution.
It really does. And they don't just leave it there. They give specific examples. You work with high efficiency. Never did I expect you to finish it in such a short time.
Specificity makes it mean more, right? Better than just good job.
Much more impactful. And then comes the big one, the offer of advancement. I will recommend you as the office director.
That's a direct link between excellent work and career progression. Huge motivator.
Absolutely. And the recipient's response is spot on, too. I will treasure the opportunity. Shows real appreciation, real enthusiasm.
Okay, so from the highs of praise to the trickier territory, explaining faults. Got two examples here.
Yeah, these can be tough conversations. In the first one, James has to explain a delay in construction work. The key move, right off the bat.
Taking responsibility. I'm sorry, it's my fault.
Exactly. That immediate ownership is crucial. It de-escalates potential conflict straight away, helps maintain trust, professionalism.
But the manager doesn't just leave it at the apology.
No, and that's important too. The follow-up question. Since these things happen, what have you done to change the situation? Shifts the focus.
From blame to solutions.
Precisely. It pushes for proactive problem solving. And James responds well.
Yeah, he outlines the concrete steps, found a new supplier, and gives a clear timeline for fixing it. Shows accountability.
Shows he's on top of rectifying it. Now, the second fault example involves a misplaced delivery note. A bit more procedural.
And this one seems to highlight, well, the consequences of maybe not fully understanding procedures.
Right. The person admits, I didn't realize I should have given it to them as soon as it arrived. There's an apology, but it also reveals a gap, doesn't it? A lack of understanding about the documentation flow.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even seemingly small process steps need clear communication for everyone. And hopefully, admitting that lack of awareness leads to learning.
Hopefully. So let's pivot again, this time to being proactive in a different way. Making proposals.
Putting ideas forward. Okay, first one.
First dialogue, Philip wants to increase sales. He states his proposal very clearly right at the start.
No messing around.
No. And then he gives the logic. Increase advertising spend to make the products better known. Direct proposal, clear rationale. Frames the conversation immediately.
And the manager seems engaged. Asks questions.
Yes, shows genuine interest. And then, after hearing the reasoning, asks for a formal written report. Good idea. Could you write down your proposal for a report?
Which suggests the initial pitch landed well, right? It warrants more serious consideration.
Exactly. It's that key step from just talking about an idea to actually moving it forward.
Okay, second proposal dialogue. This one seems to anticipate a problem.
It does. It tackles a potential hurdle the budget head-on. The person making the proposal proactively brings up a possible cost increase, but they base it on factory projections.
So grounding it in data And they don't just drop the problem there, do they?
No, they offer a mitigating view. They point out that even with the higher cost, if sales targets are met, profitability should still be okay.
That shows some strategic thinking, anticipating the financial concerns.
Yeah, looking at the bigger picture, but, and this is important, they also stress the need to follow the rules.
The line about reporting it to the finance director.
We must report it, because all budget decisions must be approved by him. Shows they understand and respect the company structure, the proper channels for financial decisions.
Right. Okay. Now we're getting into some potentially sensitive areas. Career transitions, starting with asking for resignation.
Yeah, always a significant conversation. The first dialogue is pretty direct. Employee states they're resigning. Employer, naturally, asks why.
And the employee seems quite certain.
Very. They mention having thought about it carefully. Even while acknowledging the employer's efforts, they know it's not the right fit. The decision is firm.
And the employer accepts it quite straightforwardly. Okay, thank you. Respects the decision.
Now, the second resignation scenario has a different flavor. It's about going abroad to study.
Ah, okay. So a different reason.
Right. And Mr. Paul, receiving the news, offers genuine well wishes. Even asks about the university. It feels more supportive, more understanding.
A slightly warmer exchange, perhaps.
Definitely. And critically, it includes the practical side of things. Before you leave, deliver your works to Jane, ensuring that smooth handover. Professionalism, consideration for the team.
Essential stuff. Okay, next transition. Applying for a job transfer within the company.
First request here is also quite direct. Wants to move from personnel to marketing.
And gives clear reasons?
Yes. Lack of career growth opportunities, wanting more recognition. It's very focused on professional development, articulating their career goals clearly.
And the manager agrees to consider it, which opens the door.
Right. Now, the second transfer request, well, it takes a different tack. More, candid.
How so?
The employee just comes out with it. Frankly speaking, I'm not very pleased with my job now.
Whoa, pretty blunt.
It is. And they list specific reasons. Difficult colleagues, boring work, even questioning their own performance because of it.
That feels risky, to be that blunt.
Potentially, yes. It's more vulnerable. But surprisingly, the manager's response is really empathetic. I think I understand how you feel. I'm glad you told me. I will try to fit you in somewhere else.
Huh. So that openness, even though blunt, actually worked.
In this case, it seems so. The manager was willing to listen and help find a solution. It highlights that sometimes, maybe, just being direct about dissatisfaction can be beneficial if handled well by the manager.
Interesting dynamic. Okay, last category. The very common scenario of asking for annual leave.
Yep. First dialogue here is pretty informal. The employee is kind of feeling out suitable times, mentions a place they want to go.
Leads to a bit of friendly chat about the destination, vacation plans.
Exactly. It's a more conversational way to start the leave request process. Gauging availability, building a bit of rapport maybe.
Okay, and the second leave request.
More direct again, much more planned. The employee specifies the exact dates they want.
And gives a clear reason.
Yes, a family reunion for Spring Festival in China. Mentioning the cultural context there is probably quite helpful.
And the employer seems fine with it.
Seems very willing to accommodate, yeah. Understands it's tied to a significant family and cultural event.
Right. So looking back across all these different dialogues then, these everyday workplace chats, what are the big themes jumping out?
Well, a few things really stand out consistently, I think. First, clarity. It's just foundational, isn't it? Whether you're explaining progress or taking on a task or putting forward an idea, being clear is paramount.
Clear and concise.
And proactivity. That came up a few times, especially in addressing potential problems early or following up properly on agreements, seems highly valued.
Taking ownership, too. Particularly with mistakes, that immediate, it's my fault, was powerful.
Absolutely essential for trust. And then feedback. Giving specific, constructive feedback, whether it's praise or responding to a suggestion, just has so much more impact than vague stuff.
Yeah, good job. Versus your efficiency on that project was outstanding, especially finishing it so quickly.
Big difference.
Huge difference. So here's maybe where it gets really interesting for you listening. Think about these scenarios we've just walked through. Which ones pop up most often in your day-to-day professional life?
Which ones resonate?
Yeah. And how might consciously trying out some of these approaches, maybe a specific phrase we highlighted or a structural technique like context, process, result, how might that actually shape your next interaction at work?
It's a practical takeaway.
Definitely. And maybe digging a bit deeper. What are the unspoken rules, the hidden expectations that might be floating around in similar situations within your own workplace culture? These dialogues give us a peek, but every environment has its own nuances, right?
Absolutely.
Lots to think about there.
Definitely something to consider as you continue your own deep dives in the world of work.